Okay, let's really get into this. You shared some really interesting astrological analysis about an upcoming event.
Yeah, this Mars-Ketu conjunction.
Exactly. So our plan here is basically to unpack the main insights from this material you sent over, figure out what it might mean without getting lost in all the technical terms, and, make it useful for you listening.
Precisely. We're doing a deep dive into the astrological take on this specific alignment, trying to shed light on the potential effects based on, well, the details in your source material.
So remind us, what's the main astrological event we're zoning in on today?
The big one is the conjunction, the meeting, basically, of Mars and Ketu. It's set for July 23rd, 2025. The exact time given is 3.16 and 6 seconds a.m. Indian Standard Time.
Okay, 3.16 a.m. IST. And this whole analysis, it's pinned to a specific place on Earth for the calculations.
Yes, that's right. The chart used in the source, it's calculated for Bangalore, India, 77 degrees 35 east, 12 degrees 59 north. Now, obviously, the astrological ideas have a global feel, but Bangalore is the specific reference point for this particular analysis.
Gotcha. So this isn't just like planets waving hello as they pass. The analysis seems to suggest it's a pretty big deal.
Oh, absolutely. In Vedic astrology, this kind of alignment, Mars and Ketu together, it's seen as really intense, potentially transformative. It's this powerful blend of action, represented by Mars, and detachment, which is more Ketu's domain.
Fiery energies, I think the source called them. Let's meet the players. First, Mars. What's Mars bringing to the table here, astrologically speaking?
So Mars, or Mangala in Sanskrit, is all about energy. Action, drive, courage, but also aggression, assertion, that outward kind of force. Think war, arguments, how we get things done. It's that external fire.
Okay, action planet. And then there's Ketu, the south node. What kind of fire does Ketu represent? It's described differently, isn't it?
That's right. And there's this key phrase, Kujavat Ketu. It basically means Ketu acts like Mars in some ways. But Ketu's fire, well, it's usually described as subtler, more internal, maybe corrosive, like a strong acid burning quietly but deeply. It's linked to detachment, letting go, spiritual insight, but also sudden, unexpected events that sort of burn away the unnecessary.
Interesting contrast. Mars the wildfire, Ketu the focused torch, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. So you have this very outward active fire meeting this more internal, cutting away kind of energy.
And when they get together, the source uses the term explosive union. Sounds intense.
It really is. Combining these two fiery grahas, graha being the Vedic term for planet, meaning something that grasps or influences us well, it creates this really concentrated, potentially volatile energy field, a real focal point.
Okay. Now, the analysis you share puts a lot of weight on where in the zodiac this happens. Location, 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 right?
Exactly. In the main chart, the Rasi chart, this conjunction happens in Leo.
Leo, so king's royalty.
Yes, leadership, ego, power, drama, the spotlight, things playing out on a grand stage. So this intense Mars-Ketu energy gets filtered through that Leo lens. Assertiveness, recognition, maybe even arrogance.
But wait, there's another layer mentioned, something about the Navamsa chart and Scorpio. First, maybe just quickly, what's the Navamsa?
Right, so think of the main chart, the Rasi, as the overall picture of your life. The Navamsa is like a deeper dive, a zoom in. It often reveals more about the inner reality, the subconscious, relationships, the fruits of the main chart, sometimes called the dharma or purpose.
Okay, a finer detailed chart.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is that in that Navamsa chart, both Mars and Ketu are placed in Scorpio.
Scorpio, okay, that feels significant. Secretive sign ruled by Mars.
Precisely. Scorpio is watery, intense, emotional, deals with secrets, hidden things, transformation, power dynamics, and it's ruled by Mars, so Mars is strong there. Plus, many consider Scorpio a natural home for Ketu too.
Wow, so that really doubles down on the intensity, but maybe in a more hidden way.
That's the suggestion. It amplifies that underlying intensity, hints at deeper karmic currents, things happening below the surface that aren't immediately obvious. Hidden motivations, maybe.
Hidden intensity in Scorpio.
Yeah.
Yeah, feels like stuff could be brewing that we don't see right away. So we've got these two fires, Mars's outward push, Ketu's cutting away happening in showy Leo, but with this deep, secretive Scorpio undertone. How do we make sense of that mix?
Well, the contract is really the point. Mars in Leo wants to act, be seen, maybe dominate. Very direct fire.
Right.
But Ketu's influence, especially with that Scorpio Navamsa, is more about internal shifts, dismantling things, transformation that might start unseen. So you could see bold actions or power plays on the surface, Leo, But the real story, the deeper motivations and ultimate consequences, might be much more complex, tied to secrets or uncovering hidden truth. Scorpio. It points toward the pretty fundamental shakeup, maybe of ego structures or power bases.
That definitely feels like it could stir up some strong emotions, too. And the analysis mentions the moon's position adding to that.
It really does. At the exact time of this conjunction, the moon is in Ardra Nakshatra. Ardra is located in the sign of Gemini.
Ardra. I know that one has a reputation.
It does. It's ruled by Rudra, who is a fierce, stormy aspect of Shiva, often associated with destruction that clears the way for renewal. And the planetary ruler is Rahu, the north node, linked to intensity, desire, dissatisfaction, maybe illusion.
So storms and intensity.
Pretty much. Ardra's symbolism involves storms, tears, destruction, but also breakthroughs after the storm. So the moon, representing our collective mind, emotions, the public being here, really suggests a period of heightened emotional volatility, potential for collective upset, emotional turbulence. It paints a picture of a pretty charged emotional atmosphere.
Okay, so we've got the Mars-Ketu fire, the Leo stage, the Scorpio secrets, and the stormy emotional backdrop. Wow. The source also flagged a connection with Saturn, right? Something about an aspect.
Yes, that's another key piece. Mars, from its spot in Leo, throws its eighth aspect, a challenging, transformative gaze in Vedic astrology, onto Saturn. And Saturn, at that time, will be retrograde, moving backward, in the sign of Pisces.
Okay, what does that Mars hitting Saturn retrograde combo signify?
Well, Mars is force and action. Saturn is structure, responsibility, limitations, karma, the status quo. Pisces is about endings, spirituality, dissolution. Saturn retrograde means Saturn is already in a state of review, maybe things slowing down or getting reassessed.
So Mars is pushing hard on something that's trying to slow down or look back.
Exactly. It can really activate karmic issues. Think pressure on existing systems, leadership challenges, societal structures feeling the strain. There's this tension. Mars-Ketu demands sudden change or even eruption, while Saturn retrograde in Pisces might resist or represent the consequences of past actions coming due in a big way. It can feel like hitting a wall, or maybe breaking through one.
Karmic payback meeting forceful change. Yeah, I can see how that could play out on a bigger stage. Let's talk about those potential global impacts, the mundane implications, as the source calls them.
Given the fiery mix in Leo, the sign of governments, leaders, plus that volatile moon in Ardra, the analysis suggests watching out for both literal and metaphorical explosions.
Right.
Things like actual fires, electrical problems, accidents, but also political blow-ups, escalations in conflicts, maybe even sudden outbreaks of violence or war, especially in global hotspots. Leo really points towards governments and leaders being central figures.
And the moon in Ardra, does that connect to the general public?
Very much so. The moon often represents the masses, the populace. Its placement in Ardra with those themes of suffering and upheaval could indicate periods where ordinary people feel the brunt of decisions made by those in power or experience collective hardship.
And what about the Scorpio Navamsa we talked about, those hidden currents? How might that manifest globally?
That intense Scorpio Navamsa layer suggests this could be a time when covert operations, spying, intelligence activities are heightened. Underground movements might become more active or visible. Significant things could be happening behind closed doors, away from the public eye.
Secrets and power plays behind the scenes. Got it. And the source mentions something about the effects being long-lasting. Why is that?
Ah, yes. That comes from the ascendant, or Lagna, at the exact moment of the conjunction. The chart calculated for Bangalore has Taurus rising.
Horse rising, earthy, fixed sign.
Exactly. Taurus is known for being stable, grounded, but also stubborn and resistant to change. A fixed earth sign as the ascendant for this event suggests that whatever shifts or events are set in motion during this intense period, their effects could be quite enduring.
Yeah.
Hard to reverse quickly. Like seeds planted in solid ground, the results could stick around for a while, for better or worse.
Okay, so long-term consequences. And lastly, on the world stage, there is that specific, slightly alarming note about geology.
Yes. The analysis did mention a, quote, slight chance of volcanic eruption around this time frame. It's just one possible physical manifestation of such intense, fiery, earthy energies colliding. Important not to overstate it, but it was noted as a possibility.
Right. It's about potentials, not predictions. Okay, let's shift gears from the big picture to the personal. How might this Mars-Ketu energy and everything around it affect individuals?
Well, the source particularly advises caution for anyone already going through tough Saturn transits.
Yeah.
Periods like Sati Sati, Ashtama Shani, Ardra Ashtama.
That's major Saturn cycles.
Right. Because Mars is throwing that hard aspect onto a retrograde Saturn, it can really amplify the challenges of those times. Think of sudden disruptions, unexpected obstacles, maybe karmic events really coming to the forefront. Just requires extra mindfulness for people in those phases.
Are there specific moon signs that might feel this conjunction more strongly?
Yes, Leo and Pisces moon signs were highlighted. For them, this period could bring quite significant, maybe unexpected shifts that disturb their sense of balance. Adaptability would be key.
Okay, Leo and Pisces moons, take note. And what about managing tempers?
Ah, yes. Aquarius and Sagittarius moon signs are specifically advised to watch out for flashes of anger or impatience. The energy is generally volatile, and for them, it might manifest as needing to keep a lid on impulsive reactions.
Good advice. Any notes for Aries moon signs?
For Aries moon individuals, the impact might be felt more around themes of authority, career, public image, or their relationship with figures of power. Might be a time for careful navigation in those areas.
And finally, a bit of financial advice was mentioned too.
Yes, again, for Aquarius and Sagittarius moon, sends a strong caution against making rash financial decisions or jumping into sudden risky investments during this period. Probably not the best time for impulsive moves with money for them.
Okay, that's helpful context for personal awareness. Now, just to give everyone the full technical backdrop, let's quickly run through the specific astronomical details listed in the source for that exact moment.
Sure thing. So again, July 23rd, 2025, 3.16.06 a.m. IST. The Vedic lunar date is Krishna Trayodashi in the Ashada Masa. The moon, as we said, is in Ardra Nakshatra, specifically at 11 degrees 21 minutes of Gemini.
Okay.
The yoga is Vigata. The name itself suggests conflict, urgency, maybe being uncompromising. The Karana is Vanija. And the weekday is Tuesday, which is, of course, ruled by Mars Mangalvar, adding yet another layer of Martian energy.
Tuesday ruled by Mars. Makes sense. And the other planets, where are they at that moment?
Right, the full lineup. The Sun is at 6 degrees Cancer in Pusha Nakshatra, Pada 1, Leo Navamsa. Mercury is retrograde at 20 degrees Cancer in Ashlesha, Pada 2, Capricorn Navamsa. Jupiter is at 50 degrees Gemini in Ardra, Pada 3, Aquarius Navamsa. Venus is at 26 degrees Taurus in Mrigashira, Pada 1, Leo Navamsa. Saturn, as we discussed, is retrograde at 7 degrees Pisces in Uttarabhadra, Pada 2, Virgo Navamsa. And Rahu is at 26 degrees Aquarius in Purva, Pada 2, Taurus Navamsa. Mars and Ketu themselves are conjunct around 26 degrees Leo Rahu, both in Purva Falguni Nakshatra, with Mars in Pada 4, Pisces Navamsa, and Ketu in Pada 4, Pisces Navamsa.
Wow, that's the whole complex picture. Thanks. So if we try to boil all of this down, what's the main takeaway from our deep dive into this astrological analysis you shared?
I think the core message is really about the intensity. This Mars-Ketu conjunction in Leo, especially with all those other layers, the Scorpio Navamsa, the Moon in Ardra, the Saturn aspect, it just paints a picture of a period with really potent, potentially disruptive energy.
Yeah, intense feels like the right word.
It's just a strong likelihood of significant shifts, maybe even upheaval, both personally and on the world stage. That mix of fiery action, deep transformation, emotional volatility, and karmic pressure. It definitely signals a time that calls for awareness and careful navigation.
We've really tried to walk through these, well, pretty complex astrological points together, aiming to give you a clearer sense of what this specific analysis suggests this event might mean.
Yeah, hopefully breaking it down helps make sense of the potential themes and energies involved, without getting too bogged down in the jargon.
Absolutely. So thinking about all this, the potential for bold action, for deep hidden transformation, for things maybe feeling a bit explosive, it raises a question for you to ponder as we head towards July 2025. What parts of your own life or what you see happening in the world feel like they might resonate most with this kind of intense transformative energy? Definitely something to think about.